What's up, guys? My name is Mike. This is Matt and Nick, or Rap Soup. We are doing a new series where we're going to go from 1990 to 2023, which is current times, and then probably beyond. Listening to all like the best albums that came out this year and figuring out what are our favorite, because there's a ton that we've realized we've never listened to at all, or we've only listened to once in our life. I feel like we're missing out a good, huge bit of rap history. So I feel like this is a good exercise for us, and hopefully you guys to learn about some new music and try to figure out what you like. We're going to start off by just talking about the year, how it was overall, real quick. Then we're going to get into our albums that we really enjoyed, the top three that we really enjoyed, and then a couple of honorable mentions. After that, we're going to crown what we think collectively is the best album of the year, although we might not fully agree at all times. Everything will come together at some point, and we could concede to each other and crown an album. And then to finish it off, we're just going to go with our takeaways from this year.
Once we finish this series, well, it'll always be ongoing, but once we get to last year, once we get to 2022 from 1990, we're going to create a bracket with the best album from every year and have like a tournament to find what our favorite album is throughout that course of time.
Yeah, you'll probably catch that in like August.
Yeah.
And it's February right now.
Yeah.
That's going to be a long way away.
Yeah. But that's the point of the series, kind of, is to find new music, and then we're going to end it with like a video that has the tournament and kind of crown the best albums from each year and figure out which ones we like the most along the way. Yeah, 1990 was really good. I have heard albums from 1990 in the past, but I usually don't revisit the early 90s too often. I rarely ever visit the 80s. But yeah, 1990, there are some great albums that I listened to. Some of my favorites were Amerikkas Most Wanted by Ice Cube. That's his first solo album after leaving NWA. You got Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em by Eric B. and Rakim. That's also a really good one. Business as Usual by EPMD. I really like that. Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J. It was okay. It wasn't the best, but it also wasn't the worst, in my opinion. One of my favorites from the year was People's Instinctive Tranvels and Paths in the Paths of Rhythm by A Tribe Called Quest. That's their debut album. We'll touch on that a little later. I love that album. Funky Technician by Lord Finesse. If you don't know who Lord Finesse is, he made a song later on in the 90s called Hip to the Game, and that's the song that Mac Miller sampled for Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza, just so you know. And then Fear Black Planet by Public Enemy. Also not my favorite, but some people here might have some other opinions on that. So those are really the main albums I listened to this year. So yeah, what about you guys?
My top three albums are pretty much the same as Matt's. The Amerikkas Most Wanted, People's Instinctive Travels, and Business as Usual by EPMD. The third one I've never actually listened to before recently, and that was a big shock to me because that is a high level album. I was super impressed. Now, obviously, you know people like Eric B. and Rakim with Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. That's a classic, and that's in my honorable mentions, as is Funky Technician by Lord Finesse. I think those five albums are probably the five best that came out this year, the year 1990. Really quality stuff. It definitely sounds more advanced than the 80s. It's a little more rappy, a little less. There's still a ton of funk, but there's a little bit less jazz, a little bit less instruments, a little bit less funk than previously. But overall, I think it's a pretty good year for rap music.
Besides with the Tribe Called Quest, they really implemented the jazz, and they did moving forward as well. They're kind of like the jazz group throughout rap history.
Yeah.
Nick, what about you?
I think I listened to pretty much all the same albums as you guys. I wasn't majorly into 1990 as a year, to be honest. There was definitely some good stuff, but it was not my favorite. I also never really listened. I don't think I ever listened to a single album from 1990 until we started doing this. But my favorites are Amerikkas Most Wanted. I really liked Fear of the Black Planet by Public Enemy, and probably Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em by Eric B. and Rakim. And I didn't really have huge issues with anything else, but it just didn't really stick with me. as much as the other three I mentioned.
I agree. It's definitely a good year, but definitely not the strongest year either in hip hop or the early '90s. But yeah, I think overall it was a good year, and I'm glad that we listened to all those albums from 1990 because there is some good stuff in there. Um,
Yeah,
I I kind of disagree that Fear of Black Planet by Public Enemy was really good. I feel like that's one of the biggest from that year. I understand Public Enemy and their impact and Chuck D, Flavor Flav. It's good, but it's not musically. It's not my favorite. It's probably at the bottom two of all the albums I listened to this year, along with "Mama Said Knock You Out" by LL Cool J. So yeah, I don't know why. How Nick? How come you rank Fear of Black Planet so high?
for me, I was really impressed with how Chuck D was rapping. Like, I just feel like a lot of the flows he was using on this album were not similar to a lot of the other stuff going on in this year. And where I feel like the early 90s, late 80s, a lot of the flows and beats and stuff were very similar. And Fear of a Black Planet, similar beats to Amerikkas Most Wanted, because they're both produced by the Bomb Squad. But I just feel like Chuck D was doing a lot of cool stuff on the album. And musically, I feel like there is a little too much downtime on the album, I would say. And it's why it's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be my number one pick from the year. But, it was just pretty cool rapping style that I never really heard before.
That was my biggest issue, was all the downtime, like in between the good stuff. There's just not, it wasn't strong all the way through. But then again, if you're talking about the messages that all these albums are conveying, Public Enemies is definitely historical and one of the most important messages in hip hop at that time. So I understand why it's such a big deal from that year. But yeah, other than that, just the downtime was really my only issue between songs and within songs and stuff.
So obviously the point of this exercise was to find collectively what we can kind of agree on as the best album of the year. And there was a little debate here. It was between two albums, but I think collectively we've realized that Amerikkas Most Wanted by Ice Cube is the best album to come out in 1990. Strong lyricism, strong beats, Ice Cube's energy on the thing, and Fear of a Black Planet has super strong social commentary. I think Ice Cube has just as much while also making it more fun, easier to digest, and more enjoyable to listen to. Now, on the surface, it seems like a hardcore gangster rap album, and it is, it's no doubt. But when you really look into the lyrics and figuring out what he's saying, it's about the government mistreating the black community. It's about the black community rising up, and they need to band together to stop all this shit. Because it's not fair, it's not good, and it's only holding them down. Yeah, it sounds like some hard boom bap yelling rap album, but it's deep.
Yeah, dude, it's really aggressive and really loud. Imagine being there in the studio with him and hearing him just yell when they're recording and they only hear the beats with the guy that's doing the producing, but no one else could hear it because they don't have the headphones, and he's just in there screaming. Really good. I used to be really into Ice Cube in high school. I had a big NWA phase. But I forgot how good he was, and I appreciate him way more now than I used to after listening to this. It's his first solo album. He kind of took his style from his time with NWA, and then I think he improved it by creating his own sound, creating his own character. He was always a storyteller and a good writer, but this was like a fun character, racially charged, aggressive. It's at the time it's gangster rap at its best, but you can't just look at it as gangster rap. It's deeper than that, like Mike said. It's a good theme. He took the criminal theme from NWA and he just built his own solo individual character. And Yeah, it's kind of like his own sound. Sir Jenks is one of the producers in the Bomb Squad. They are really sick. I'm so into Bomb Squad and Sir Jenks. If I had to rank like my top 50 albums ever, it might be in there. I really like America's Most Wanted. It's really good. So I think that that's the best album from 1990. And Nick, agree, disagree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't really have much to say about it that you guys haven't already said, but yeah, I mean, he's just such a presence on the mic, and he makes you listen to what he has to say. And it's a shame that a lot of the issues he's talking about on the album are still so relevant today, 33 years later. But yeah, it's an awesome album. The only other one I was considering to be the best was Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em by Eric B. and Rakim. But when it comes down to it, I don't even think it's close. I think this is by far the best album of 1990.
Yeah, two more interesting things I want to add about this. It's the title, America's Most Wanted, is based off of a true crime TV show, America's Most Wanted. And when he was or when Bomb Squad was producing this album, this was in New York when they were doing this, and they're like a New York, producers, but they made sure that every beat didn't sound like it was from New York. They wanted it to still have that California sound to it, while still having like its roots in the East Coast, which I thought was really interesting. Like they were throwing out beats because it sounded too much like New York, and that just wasn't gonna fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's like its own. He Ice Cube going solo and being this good really was good for West Coast hip hop. Even though he was working with producers on East Coast, like it was his own thing at the time.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this was a major point in the history of the popularity of hip hop. I think, with NWA really putting hip hop on the map, and then Ice Cube coming out so strong on his first solo album was extremely important for the rest of what was to come.
Absolutely.
Putting gangsta hip hop, gangsta rap on the radar. But
I feel like just gangster pop in general.
Bringing just a ton of attention to it. All right, so best album from 1990, America's Most Wanted. Kind of want to go into detail about another album or two. Nick said earlier that America's Most Wanted was by far the best. I think it's certified the best, definitely, but I don't think it's by far. I've always been into A Tribe Called Quest, especially since college. Q-Tip, Phife Dawg, so sick. Q-Tip is so talented at producing. He's been around for 33 years, and he's still involved. People's Instinctive Travels and the Passive Rhythm could not be more into it. I always loved Midnight Marauders and Low End Theory. But dude, I might like People's Instinctive Travels and the Passive Rhythm more than Low End Theory. I'll try to figure that out by the time we get to the 1991 video. But this album, I never listened to it all the way through. If I did, I might have listened to a big chunk of it, but that was a long time ago, like 8 years ago, because I went through a Can I Kick It phase. But this album is some of my favorite production ever. It's my easily second favorite of the year. It's so nice. It's jazzy, and it's so different. There was a lot of like gangster rap going on at this time, and like racially charged stuff, and the topics of this album are so different and like laid back. There's a song called I Left My Wallet in El Segundo, and then it's just a song about him leaving his wallet somewhere with other things tied in. It's like a funk jazz fusion, and dude, production wise, it might be in one of my favorites of all time. There's not much from Phife Dawg as there is on the later albums. This is a lot. It's really Q-Tip heavy, but I loved it. When people today, people in our generation, what's vibe rap these days? Maybe like Future in a way, or like some Drake music, stuff like that. This
or Lost.
This shit is my vibe music. I'm going to be revisiting this a lot. If I'm just trying to relax and hang out and feel something, I'll put on People's Instinctive Travels in the passive rhythm. I love it. All right, so let's touch on how we are now really into the early 90s. We're excited to keep going throughout the different years. We've been missing out on a lot of shit, and this is a whole section of the genre that is now within our taste and radar and will be probably listened to heavily moving forward the rest of our lives.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot from this time period that we're not going to listen to. We are really going to go deep into everything.
Wait.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Wait, hold on.